Hello and welcome to your Bleeding Heart podcast for March 8th, 2023. This week I'll be discussing Mario Kart, insider trading, Shovel Knight, The Mandalorian, and more. I'm your host Mario 8th. Find me across the internet, all at Mario 8th. Links to all my socials and every article I'll be discussing, as always, will be in the show notes. First up, if you, like me, love some good Mario Kart, then be sure to tune in this Thursday when the new DLC courses unlock. I'm really excited for the update, especially to see how the new Yoshi's Island course is, and especially hearing the music from what we got in the trailer. It sounded amazing. And while the Mario Kart Tour courses aren't always my favorites, it is fun to see how each lap traverses different parts of the cities, and I'm excited to see how the other returning courses are changed similarly. I'm really excited. It's coming tomorrow by the time I'm posting, and I can't wait. Speaking of Mario Kart, there is some sad news. If you're one of the 3 or so people who still uses their Wii U's regularly, you won't be able to play Mario Kart 8 or Splatoon 1 online for quite some time, maybe ever again. A security exploit that Nintendo learned about in 2021 seems to be the cause. Games like Mario Maker or Splatoon 2 were updated at the end of last year, but Splatoon and Mario Kart 8 weren't addressed and are now being taken down. Admittedly, both games have newer versions readily available on the Switch, but hopefully they'll be patched regardless. Speaking of insider trading, Yuji Naka, the co-creator of the Blue Blur Sonic the Hedgehog, has been in court recently. He was already arrested twice last year for alleged insider trading, but on March 2nd, he seemed to have pled guilty. Apparently, he purchased $1 million worth of stock from A-Team Entertainment, a company who was creating the new Final Fantasy VII mobile game Battle Royale spin-off, and he purchased them before the game was announced publicly. He left shortly after the failure of Balan Wonderworld, and now I guess he's going to jail, or at least he'll be fined to all hell. Either way, don't insider trade, I guess. And that is all the news I pulled this week. Pretty slow news week, I suppose. Let's move on to what I've been doing. So, the main thing I've been doing is, on a whim, I decided to pick up my PlayStation Vita, and I started playing Shovel Knight Specter of Torment. I think I actually started playing it when the Shovel Knight account tweeted out, "Happy 6-year anniversary to Specter of Torment." I saw that tweet, and then a few hours later I was like, nah, it's about time I started playing it. I played Plague of Shadows last year. There's a few podcast episodes where I talk about that. And I enjoyed it. I definitely never loved it as much as I liked the original campaign. But I had always heard Specter of Torment was a lot better. That it did a lot more with the Shovel Knight. It changed the Shovel Knight formula a lot more than just introducing a new playstyle. In the terms of all the Plague of Shadow levels were the same as the Shovel Knight levels, but now you're controlling Plague Knight. Where in Specter of Torment, it's not only does what's the gosh darn guy's name? Specter Knight? Specter Knight. That's his name. You're playing as Specter Knight, and it's a prequel to Shovel Knight. It's about Specter Knight trying to create the Order of No Quarter, which are the main antagonists of the original Shovel Knight game. And it was a blast. I beat one campaign, and Specter Knight is so fun to use. He's so much more agile than Shovel Knight is. He can crawl up walls for a short distance. He can wall jump up stuff. His knife, his scythe that he wields, reaches very far distances, and also if he's jumping in the air, he can do a dash towards or up towards other enemies, and it makes playing through the game so fluid, even just in regular combat. It took me a while to get used to. Sometimes I would dash and it would go wrong, or I would break open blocks I didn't think I was going to, and I would fall into the pit or fall on top of spikes. But once I really got used to it, it was just it's a real blast. The hardest thing for me was like the boss battle combats. I still have a hard time. One of the last achievements I'm going to do on this version on my first campaign playthrough is beating an entire level without getting hurt. And I gotten real close, and then I get touched by the final boss right at the end there, and I'm like, oh gosh darn it, because I got bodied quite a few times on some of these bosses. Other bosses went through like a breeze. King Knight, easy. Aerial Knight, is that his name? The guy who flies around on the airship, easy. But then other knights, like, I'm forgetting who, some of the additional bosses, like the boss you fight in the Lich Yard, that one took me a while. That one was tough. Some of the Black Knight bosses I had a really difficult time with, but overall, really loving the game. The big thing that's great is it took all the levels from the base Shovel Knight campaign, and it twisted them up quite a lot. There are some similar areas that are fun to enter into. It's like, oh, I do remember this area from the main Shovel Knight campaign, but then so many other areas in this game are completely different. Plus, they all have aesthetic changes, like King's Knight's stage is just after King Knight took over the castle, so it's not all decorated in his getup yet. The Lich Yard the Lich Yard's kind of the same, actually. Bad example. But the shipyard is much less flooded. The ship has been raised to the surface, so there's a lot more open air and a lot less water. They just made some really cool changes. Plus, and these changes work really well with the new dynamics of being able to dash into the air, dash around, dash into enemies, and it's just a great time. I especially loved the rail gliding. There's like a Sonic the Hedgehog type rail glide where Specter Knight's able to ride on his scythe across rails. There's really only one stage that actually utilizes this dynamic at all, but it was so fun that if there's one thing, this DLC did exactly what games should do, is left me wanting more, because the rails thing was so fun and I wished we could have gotten more, and it was a great feature, and maybe if I had gotten more, it would have gotten tiring. And so they were able to cut themselves off at the right moment where I had a great time with it, but I still wanted a little bit more. It was really fun. So I completed one playthrough. I'm still working on cleaning up some of the achievements. I'm going to complete this game. I gotta get all the achievements for the Shovel Knight treasure trove I gotta get all the trophies for my PlayStation profile because I'm a weirdo. I got pretty close last night to beating a level without getting hit, and then King Knight touched me once, and then I just decided to beat King Knight without getting hit, and I just did that second try. So I've just got to make it through the entire level, and then also don't get hurt on the boss, and then that should be good. And then I think I'm going to have to do like 3 more different playthroughs, one for a speedrun, one for a New Game Plus, and one where I don't lose too much money. I also accidentally bought a collectible, and if you buy this specific collectible, these collectibles can be found in the levels. They recharge your magic or your health. If you miss them in a level, you can buy them, but if you do buy them, you can't get them in the level anymore. And there is an achievement in-game, which requires you to find all of them in the level, so I'm going to have to do that too. But I don't mind, because the speedrun is only an hour and a half, meaning a regular playthrough is going to be between 2 and 3 hours, and that's not that much time. You can almost breeze through it, especially since, hopefully, I've gotten a lot better at the game since I first started. The rest of my playthroughs, the next 3, will probably take significantly shorter than the first one. And I'm excited to get back to it. It's a great game. More people should play it, I'm guessing. Once I do get the achievements, it'll be the rarest trophy I've gotten on my PlayStation profile, which I think is really funny. So far, all of my rarest trophies are from Shovel Knight. For a while, the rarest was the Platinum, and then the rarest was completing Plague of Shadows, and now the rarest is going to be Specter of Torment. And then eventually I'll get into in 6 months, I guess, I'll finally jump into the King Knight DLC, which I've also heard is pretty good and more of a card game type thing. Looking forward to that too. But for now, Specter of Torment, great. It has really refreshed my love for Shovel Knight. If Plague Knight's DLC was just kind of like, yeah, this is still Shovel Knight but not as good, Specter of Torment really reminded me, this is why I love this game. It is just fantastic. I love Yacht Club games. I should really pick up that new game they put out recently, Shovel Knight Dig, and I'm really excited for Mina the Hollower whenever that comes out. And also excited to see whatever their next proper Shovel Knight game is. Really great. Moving on to other stuff, I watched the first episode of Mandalorian Season 3, and I thought it was entertaining. There was so much going on in that episode. It kind of reminded me of the Mando episodes, maybe like the second Mando episode in Book of Boba Fett, where there's like 3 different set pieces, and all of them deliver a lot of what is probably going to be key information. But I thought it flowed well enough. I enjoyed all the set pieces. It didn't look as bad as Book of Boba Fett did. I'm enjoying it. I am a little annoyed. Now, I watched it anyway because I'm just at this point, I'm a sucker. So I'm going to watch everything Star Wars that gets put out. And so I already watched Book of Boba Fett. So I understood how Mando got Grogu back. It's wild to me. They did not make any allusion to how that happened in any of the previously on segments of Mando Season 3. They alluded to a robot friend dying at the end of Season 1, but the fact that Grogu's storyline got resolved in a bad spin-off show, and they didn't even think to mention it, is wild. If you're just watching Mandalorian Season 2, and you see Grogu's gone, goodbye Luke Skywalker, and then you start Season 3, and then suddenly, not only does Mando have a really cool new ship, but Grogu is also there, new viewers are going to be incredibly confused. And really it just goes to show how this Marvelification of every media property... Now, this is the main reason why I don't get into comic books. Because not only are they expensive, but at a certain point you have to read everything if you want to know what's going on. And that's what's happened to the Marvel movies as well, and now they're trying to turn Star Wars into that, and that is just a huge mistake. I mean, look at Andor. Andor is a fantastic show. You don't need to watch anything else outside of it. It might help to watch Rogue One beforehand, but my mom didn't, and my mom also loved it. You don't even really need to know Star Wars. It's just a good show. But now Mandalorian Season 3, you have to watch Mandalorian Season 1. You have to watch Mandalorian Season 2. You have to watch Book of Boba Fett, a bad show, just to understand what's happening in Mando Season 3. Hopefully that's the worst it gets. They don't convolute this horrible process any further, but that's beside the point. I liked Episode 1 for now. I'm going to reserve most of my judgment, though. There's still a lot of ways that this show could get messy. I liked a lot of the stuff they introduced. I liked the pirate stuff going on, although part of me was kind of hoping we would get Hondo in there. Hondo Ohnaka from Clone Wars and Rebels, and I guess also the theme park. I like how the town has blown up. It was wild at first seeing it, or not wild, but interesting. Oh, so this has happened already. Oh, weird. The guy is now wearing this awful cape, and he seems like he's not that great of a ruler, huh? Hopefully they'll be interested in showing this guy as not a great ruler of this new town. And also, I'm excited to see the Mandalorian planet. See how that goes. I also watched not the latest episode, but the episode before of The Last of Us. That was the prequel episode that was based off of the DLC from the game. It was fine. It was a fine episode. It wasn't the best. This show, as it gets closer to the end of the game, has been getting closer to how the game actually plays out, and that has just been becoming less and less interesting to me. But all the acting's good. I'm excited to see Joel and Ellie interact with each other. I'm not excited for this next episode. This next part of the game was my least favorite part of the game. I just hated this entire plotline. The episode's already out. The winter arc, I suppose. I'm so not looking forward to it. I'll be watching it either the day this episode posts or the Sunday after. I'm just, this is the part of the game where I started thinking, this game kind of sucks. And, well, I guess I'll see how the interpretation goes. Obviously, everyone on the internet loves it, but everyone on the internet also loved the game, so we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna watch it. I'm definitely watching more as I'm fascinated about how this is adapted, not as I'm interested to see how the story goes, because I'm not liking the story that much. It is still The Last of Us, to its detriment, in my opinion. Anyway, that is all I pulled for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like, leave a rating somewhere. I hear iTunes ratings are pretty useful, but if you don't have that, maybe go to the YouTube version and leave a rating there. Maybe leave a comment while you're there as well, or just yell at me on social media, where all my links are in the description, as well as all the links to the show notes, links to the news articles that I talked about are also in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.